Everybody has been running around crazy, and literally the world as we know it has been turned upside down. Would you agree?
Yes, try this one.
Absolutely. And the thing is that tonight our goal is to make sure that you guys and understand how your immune system responds the best we can, so that we can possibly take out any fear that you might be having still about everything that's been going on. You know, Dr. Brass and I, we've studied immunology, we've studied microbiology, we've studied epidemiology, virology, we've studied all those things, and together we've had almost 76 years of clinical experience. And we've seen thousands and thousands of patients come in and out of here with really low immune systems who, quite frankly, should be afraid and should shelter in place. And then we've seen people who've had absolutely amazing immune systems where literally they could jump into a tub of sewage like the Hudson River in New York City and have absolutely nothing happen to them. And so if you don't understand how your immune system responds, then you're definitely going to be in a place of fear because you don't know where you're at. And so tonight, our hope, we pray that you get a deeper understanding and have a different perspective about the immune response and your health, so that you're able to reach that optimal health and live that abundant life that you're created to have. And so tonight we're going to start with a treat for you guys. We're going to start with a video of an amazing doctor who is world well known, Dr. Bruce Lipton. You may have heard of him before. Sometimes we do some of his presentations here. But he is a cellular biologist who got his notoriety in epigenetics. He used to be a professor right down the street here at Stanford University. And I'm going to let him start tonight by putting things in the right frame to help you start to understand really what this immune response in your body is all about.
This is not an accident. This is nature's natural immune vaccination system. I'll give you one significant insight into this that comes from us in 1986 when the swine flu epidemic scared everybody. And the significance was that all of a sudden the government felt that it was necessary to inject everybody with a vaccine against the swine flu. And the problem was nobody tested this vaccine. And while they were creating all these vaccines, insurance companies started to step away from the government and said, wait a minute, you're going to inject the entire population with vaccines that haven't really fully been tested? The insurance companies balked and said, we're not even going to cover that. The government actually had to change the Constitution in the United States because by definition, the Constitution, the government can't be an insurer of the people. And yet the insurance company said they're not going to cover this government mandated vaccine. So the government said, okay, we'll cover it. And guess what? There was no real swine flu epidemic at all, but it cost the government billions of dollars in insurance for a simple reason. The vaccines killed many more people than the so-called swine flu that really didn't exist. And the vaccines created a situation called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a destruction of the nervous system as a result of the vaccinations. And you start to realize, oh my God, the vaccinations were much more toxic than the so-called swine flu. Immunology has made a misunderstanding about something very important called the tonsils. We have all heard of tonsils, and many of us have had our tonsils taken out. If you look in a conventional book, a tonsil represents an immune mechanism that will protect us from invasive organisms. And the tonsils, there's actually 3 pairs or 6 tonsils making a ring around your throat. And the significance of the tonsils is they are the devices that apparently are protecting us, and I use that with quotes, from foreign things such as viruses or bacteria that enter through our mouth, our nose, our eyes, or our ears, because all of these structures have conduits that connect to the throat. So if an invasive organism enters into our body through any of the holes in our head, these organisms must pass through the ring of the tonsils. It was believed and still believed by many that these tonsils represent the first line of defense to protect us against these invasive organisms. It's time to reconsider this concept completely for this reason. When we say that tonsils are there for our defense, then you would think, well, tonsils are there to protect us from anything that gets on the inside. Tonsils actually invite antigens into the body. And all of a sudden, what do you mean invite them? I thought they were supposed to protect me. Well, all the tonsils have little tiny slivers of connection to the surface, so that as we eat something or something goes down our throat, a small sample of what we just swallowed goes down these little crevices and enter into the tonsils. The function of the tonsils is then to read the nature of these things that we brought into our mouth, and then identify them by creating antibodies that will complement with these foreign things introduced into the body. By this mechanism, the immune system then gets to sample everything that comes in through the apertures in our head and passes through our throat. Not only does it sample it, but it's a place where we set up a learning system. This is where we teach the immune system to recognize the things in our environment. And so basically, the tonsils are not protective mechanisms in that regard against an infection. The tonsils are a place of immunological learning because we invite the antigens in so we can create antibodies against them. By definition, the tonsils are designed for oral vaccination, meaning anything you put into your mouth, the tonsils will facilitate an immune response against anything that's not part of your normal body. When you bypass the natural mechanism and insert the antigens under the skin, you fool the system, because at all entry points to the body, the system has sentry guards to see what's coming into the body and create an awareness of it for the system of what's in there. If you go underneath the skin, you begin to introduce something that there are no sentries for, no guides to say, hey, what happened in this area? All of a sudden, there are antigens that showed up. How'd they get here? Not through any normal way that the body knows. So the first thing is you trick the immune system, but not in a natural way. You've confused it. The natural way is orally to bring something into the body. So when it comes to vaccinations, please realize nature already gave us a vaccination system. What we should have our scientists do is focus on how we can best use that system rather than trying to avoid it entirely and inject vaccines under our skin.
Well, I think he says it pretty plainly. The body already has a built-in system that knows what it's doing. And if you bypass that system, that's when problems start to begin. So where does the immune system exist then? Well, the straight up answer to that question is we don't have one. That's why they can't even explain it in medical texts. So what do I mean by this? Well, you see all these organs in different areas of the body. You've got your tonsils up here. You've got some lymphatic nodes over here in the neck. Of course, you got your thymus in the middle of the body. Then under your arms, you've got some more lymph nodes. You've got some patches in your intestines. Your appendix is part of this. Please come in. We have 2 more seats back there. And of course, another thing that people don't think of is the bone marrow is also part of the system. And so unless you can actually correlate these different organs and measure them and put them together, you're really not going to understand how the immune response works in your body. And so the first thing that we need to do to understand it better is to define it. And that's been really hard to do because even in medical textbooks, if you look up the definition of the immune system, you can look in 50 different textbooks and they're all going to say something different. And so what ends up happening is there creates a lot of confusion. And so what we've done here tonight is we've decided to make up our own definition, okay, to hopefully help you guys understand this a little better. I mean, the idea of a good teacher is somebody who takes a complex subject and tries to make it real simple so that you can utilize it in your everyday life, right?
Right.
So, here we go. The definition of the immune system, or better yet, immune response, is how we refer to it, says that all the mechanisms used by the body as protection against environmental agents, both internally and externally, that are foreign to the body. So right away, we don't use the word immunity in that first sentence. Did you notice? Instead of the word immunity, we refer to it as protection. These agents can be microorganisms such as viruses, bacteria, pathogens. It can be chemicals like in the air. You know, we're breathing in a lot of toxic chemicals every single day. That's one of our biggest forms of toxicity that we experience right now. It could be food sensitivities. Maybe your body has a sensitivity to a food. Your immune response has to deal with that. Drugs, medications, pollen, animal allergies, abnormal cells like cancer cells. And so the immune system is very, or the immune response in the body is very complex. And the first thing that the body has to do is it has to identify that there is a foreign body there. So it does it by doing two things. First of all, the first thing it does is it has to notify, like Dr. Lipton was saying, the rest of your body that something foreign is in there, right? Did you catch that from what was going on at the tonsils, what it was doing?
Right.
So it has to identify there's an invader, and it does that by, I want you to imagine, like, if there was one of those guys with the night goggles and the night stuff, and they have the gun and they're trying to shoot somebody. What do? They take a little red laser light and they put it on that thing, right? Well, that's the first step in our body. Our first response is it has to identify that there's an invader in there. So it creates an antigen and it attaches it to the invader. That lets the rest of the immune system know, hey, this doesn't belong in here. So the first thing it has to do is it has to identify it. And I like to use the analogy of repairing the wood on your house, because right now that's what we're doing in our home. And the first thing our contractor has to do is he has to actually take the molding, the bad wood, where the wood is starting to go rotten and start to break down. But his first step is he's got to take that bad stuff out of there, right? Once he's got the bad stuff out of there, now he can actually repair that area. So that's what your immune system has to do. First, it has to remove the things that don't belong in there, and then it can begin to repair itself. So our body is constantly in a state of growth and repair. And it does that, our immune system response does that in a way that it actually protects us, and it sets up physical barriers. And our first physical barrier is actually our skin. Okay, most people don't think of the immune skin when they think about the immune system. That is actually the first physical barrier. And so most of us look at the skin like it's just some kind of saran wrap around our body. But in reality, it's probably the most important part of our barrier immunity. And the skin is the largest organ in the body, and it has the most immune cells as a result of that. Our gut, we always talk about immunity in the gut. That's important too, but there's more immune cells actually in your skin than any other area of your body. The surface area of your skin is large, and there's a lot of immune cells in there, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So what is barrier immunity? What is physical barrier immunity? Well, we talked about the nose, we talked about the mouth, the tonsils, we talked about these areas in the head, the ears, your eyes. These are all physical barriers inside of our bodies. And it's actually part of our immune system that we don't really think about it that way. And the reason why it's part of the barrier system is because the physical barriers have these cells in there. They're called goblet cells. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But they produce a protective mucus blanket. And so anywhere we have a physical barrier, there is a protective mucus blanket. You know, we put a little bit too much faith in man when we should be putting more faith in the way the Creator made this body to begin with. You know, these things have been existing in our body long before man even knew that they were there. So I just love how we've lost the concept of how amazing our bodies are. Those physical barriers are not only in the head area, but they're also over our entire skin. They're in our stomach, they're in our gut, the lining of the stomach, the lining of the small and large intestine, and they're in other areas as well. You know, the more I study this body, the more amazed I get at it. Anybody remember this little boy? It was kind of a sad thing that happened with this little guy.
They used to make a movie with
The boy in the bubble. Is anybody familiar with that?
Yeah.
His name was David Vetter. And this is a real story. He actually had a serious autoimmune disease, very rare, where his barriers were deficient. And so as a result of that, they had to actually put him in a bubble. And so I want you to think about people who have severe burns. Anybody see somebody who ever have a severe burn? Yeah. It's pretty serious stuff. So here's the thing though. One of the things that these people actually died from is severe infection. And the reason for that is there's microbes all around us, viruses all the time. And so if there's no barrier there to protect you, you're going to get infected. So you see now, am I making my point how important your skin is? It's extremely important, and we're going to show you how to protect it here tonight. The thing is that this is what people are trying to do to us right now, huh? They're trying to stick us in a bubble, right? But hey, is this feasible?
No.
Who can live like that?
You don't build antibodies.
So we need other options, and that's why we're here tonight. Would you all agree?
Yes.
Okay, so your skin needs to be acidic. You know, neutral is around 7, and I hear people all the time say, hey doc, you know what, I'm healthy when my body is in neutral, I understand. No, that's not true. Yes, there's areas of the body that the pH should be slightly alkaline, but not your skin. One of the barriers your skin has is that it produces acidity. And the acidity of your skin should be somewhere between 4.5 and 5.0. The more acidic your skin is, the healthier your protection is. The more alkaline your skin is, the weaker your protection is. You see, we think of the skin as like a saran wrap, but it's not. There's little areas, there's gaps where these viruses can get in. And so we want to keep our skin as acidic as possible. Now, another area of protection is our stomach. We don't think much of our stomach as part of our immune system, but it is. Your stomach, the major job of your stomach is to break down proteins. And it does that. It breaks down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. But when you look at viruses, they're actually protein. In fact, they're wrapped in protein. And so when a virus goes into your stomach when you're eating, one of the first things your stomach does is it tries to break that down. The most important thing, though, that your stomach does is that it sterilizes your food. So your stomach is an integral part of your immune system, your immune process. This body is smart, isn't it? All right, so here we go. Here's some solutions. So how do we build up our physical barriers on our skin? Well, here's 2 great ideas. Lemons and apple cider vinegar are very very acidic. And so one of the things that you can do, and they're very cheap, would you agree? I mean, this is really simple to do. Exactly. Put it on. That's what I do. Every time I take a shower, almost daily, I pour either lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, whatever I have, all over my body. And I'll tell you, I used to have a difficult time healing, you know, my skin, sores on my body. I mean, literally, it could take weeks or months sometimes. Since I've been using this, but also since my vitamin D levels are almost up as high as they need to be, but mainly since I've started using this, within a day, it's healed, it's gone. So if you get a poke or anything like that, you can pour it on there immediately. At night, I like to use it before I go to bed. And so the other thing is you can drink warm water with lemon every day. That's a good one to do every day. Drink warm water with lemon. One more thing is that vitamin C lemons are high in vitamin C. So I put a lemon in juicing. For those of you who are juicing here, the recipe I gave you has a lemon in it. And so just use these things on a daily basis to protect your physical barriers. All right, so your skin, like we said, has multiple layers of cells in them. And one of the cells that your skin has are what are called goblet cells. We already mentioned those. It has multiple other cells that you wouldn't even think of are just below the surface of your skin. And these specialized cells will respond along with the acidity to any invaders that come into it. In addition to that, these mucus barriers that we're talking about are all over your body. They're in not only your nasal cavity, but they go all the way down into your lungs. Any lining, anything that is exposed to the external world, you'll find this mucus barrier. They're also in your stomach. They're in your upper GI tract. They're in your bladder. They're in, for a woman, they're in their female reproductive organs. They're literally everywhere in your body, that areas you don't even think about. They're protecting you. You don't even realize they're existing, but they're there protecting you as an immune response. So let's look at these goblet cells. I love these goblet cells, they're amazing. These goblet cells are on the surface of the skin. They're everywhere, producing this mucus barrier. And they're very specialized. Like I said, they're everywhere there's a physical barrier, there's goblet cells. Let's read about what PubMed says about goblet cells. Goblet cells reside throughout the length of your small and large intestine and are responsible for the production and the maintenance of a protective mucus blanket. So I want everybody just to imagine being out in the cold somewhere where there's snow and somebody just came over and they gave you this warm blanket to protect you. And think about how warm you feel right now. That's what every single day your body's producing all over you. These mucus blankets everywhere to protect you from viruses. How amazing is that, huh? That's just amazing. Now, can anyone tell me what herb this is?
Chamomile.
Excellent. Who else said chamomile?
Manzanilla.
Okay, these two here. Well, if I had a prize, I'd give it to you guys. Whip that out. Okay, very good.
I sell it.
You better know, right? Yeah, it's actually chamomile. Now, chamomile is a nutrient-dense herb that actually causes restoration, regeneration to these goblet cells. Hey, how cool is that, huh?
Oh, it's very relaxing.
So, yeah, so, you know, some of the things that you can do besides the lemon water and the apple cider vinegar is you can drink chamomile tea. Now, chamomile tea is wonderful and it will help your goblet cells to restore, But if you have already some broken down health, maybe you've got some bad skin problems, or you just have some other health issues going on, maybe gut health or whatever, you can also do a herbal, liquid herbal chamomile, which is more potent. And so, you know, people say, okay, doc, well, what's the difference? There's no difference. It's exactly the same. It's just that one is more potent, and we use it when we see your blood work is off and you need it. We don't recommend that you just start throwing things in your body because somebody said that sounds good. That's not a good idea. We don't guess, we test. And that's why. We want to see what the body needs to be restored. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you take it regularly as tea, it's going to help your immune barriers get stronger though. So make sure you're drinking some chamomile tea from time to time. It's a very smart idea. All right. You're putting on your, what's that?
It helps you to sleep better.
It'll help you sleep better. It will help you put on your protective mucus blanket. We'll get the questions at the end. Hi, welcome. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about your innate immune response. Now, what does innate mean?
Well, it's a
You're born with
compound
it.
word.
What does innate mean? You're born with it. It means you're born with it.
Right.
Let me ask you a question right now. What is everybody talking about?
Corona.
I can't wait. Oh, we can't wait till that vaccine gets here. I didn't say us in here. I'm saying everybody. They're talking about this magical vaccine, this unicorn, a vaccine that's going to come out and it's going to take that virus away, right? Everywhere you go, that's all they talk about. When we get the vaccine, then we're going to go back to normal. Well, okay. When we restore your immune response, which we're going to teach you here tonight, then we're going to get back to normal. When people understand how their immune response works and what they need to do to build up their physical barriers and protect their innate immune response, this is when things are going to get back to normal. So you're going to be putting on your protective blanket, so to speak. So let's look at the definition of innate immunity. Well, this is from a microbiology textbook called The Cell, a very reputable book. And their definition of innate immunity says humans are exposed to millions of potential pathogens daily. How often?
Daily.
Daily. Through contact, ingestion, and inhalation. Okay, wait a minute. We're exposed to these daily. Is that what it's saying?
That's correct.
It says we're exposed to these daily. So what does that mean?
24/7.
That means they're everywhere, right? When you're sitting in your home, there's millions of them everywhere, right? In your own home, and you don't even know it. You don't even know that they exist. But there's certain specialized cells that once those cells are strong in our body's able to rid that. So that's what we're going to talk about here tonight. How do we impact that innate immunity in our body that's so important? Let's read a little more. Our ability to avoid infection depends in part on the adaptive immune system, which remembers previous encounters with specific pathogens and destroys them when they attack again. So you see there's two parts to your immune system. There's the innate immune response, which is what? You're what?
Born with it.
Born with it. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
Yes, you're born with it. But the world right now is looking for a company or a government agency that's going to build some kind of vaccine that's going to come around and they're going to inject you, right? They're going to inject you. But let me ask you a question. When they inject you, what do?
They activate your adaptive
Compromising the
immune
immune
system.
system, like the flu shot.
Yeah.
You even
Think
get
back-
sicker because
Think
it has
back to
mercury.
Dr. Lipton's video.
They're
Yeah.
putting,
What's that?
they're putting a toxin into your body.
They're bypassing what?
The normal immune
The
system.
normal immune system's response.
Right, antibiotics.
Remember what Dr. Lipton showed you? When it goes into the throat, what's it do? Immediately your immune system's being alerted that, hey, there's a foreign body, but when they inject you, they bypass what?
The immune system.
The normal, they bypass the innate immune response is what they're bypassing.
Right.
So when they inject you, they bypass your barriers. Everybody's talking about nothing's going back to normal until we get this vaccine, but
Oh,
nothing's
boy.
going
Get it
back to
stronger.
nothing's going back to normal until we educate people about how their immune response works in their body and what they need to do to support this.
Fix it.
Do you understand? We've always told you guys this, it's all about the function in your body. When your body's functioning right, your body knows what to do. Your body already knows what it's supposed to do. Doesn't need any interference. It just doesn't need, it doesn't need any help, it just doesn't need any interference. So, the current thinking of that we're going to inject you with something is misleading and taking us down the wrong path. Now let's read a little further. The adaptive immune responses, however, are slow to develop on first exposure to a new pathogen. Remember, it's first the innate immune response.
Born with it.
That's the first response in the body. Something comes in, it's your innate immune response that goes and responds to that. It sets up the adaptive immune response. Okay, you guys with me? So what this is saying is that the adaptive immune responses, however, are slow to develop. They're not slow to develop. Your innate immune response had to set it up. So now it's creating these B and T cells that are activated by the innate immune response. But here's the problem. Here's what happens. It can therefore take a week or so before the responses are fully effective. This is what the problem was with the COVID, because the immune system hadn't set up, it hadn't seen this virus before, and it hadn't already set up an adaptive response to it. So while their body was trying to set up an adaptive response to it, this is what was happening. It says, by contrast, a single bacterium or a single virus activated a doubling time of 1 hour. In 1 hour can produce almost 20 million progenies and create a full-blown infection in a single day. You see? So they're waiting for a vaccine that's going to work with the adaptive immune system, because that's what the vaccine works with. It doesn't address our innate immune response. It works with the adaptive. So they're creating a vaccine to work with the part of the immune system that isn't in control here. The one that starts everything is your innate. Who here, has anybody heard them talking about your innate immune response?
No.
Why do you think they're not talking about it? Because why? Because it has nothing to do with that. It's working with the adaptive part. You follow? So let's read the rest of this. Therefore, During the first critical hours and days of exposure to a new pathogen, we rely on our innate immune system to protect us from infection. So doesn't it make sense then, if it's our innate immune response that protects us, shouldn't we be looking at how we can build those physical barriers and protect that innate immune response?
Right.
You guys are smart, you're with it. Of course it is. Dr. Brass is gonna come out here and he's gonna talk to you about how you can do that right now. You're on, Chief. Baton.
Yeah.
That one here. Teleprompter here. Okay. All right, guys. So here's what your immune cells look like. You got the neutrophils, the mast cells. You can read along.
These are the
But
innate
these are the
immune
cells that you can test for, right? So we need to get an idea of where our immune system is at, don't we?
Right.
Absolutely. And so it's kind of hard to see all this, but you need to know how to produce these cells, right? And a lot of these cells come from your bone marrow. Most of these cells come from your bone marrow, right? So you need to feed your bone marrow so that it can restore your stem cells, okay? And then as it cascades down, now you're going to replenish your cells so that you can replenish your innate immune system, okay? So the question is, how does a vaccine build our immune response? Can it? It can't, right? What it does is it produces a cytokine storm, okay, causes chronic inflammation in our body.
More illnesses.
So these cells can be tested for, like we talked about, right?
Right.
So, so you have an idea where your immune system's at, right? So look at these lab panels, okay? These are the basic immune system that we want on your lab. It's your white blood cell count, right? So why does your MD take these tests? The only reason why he takes it is he's looking for a high white blood cell count. Because a high blood cell count tells him what? There's a what?
Cancer.
An infection. And then he gives you what?
A drug.
He gives you an antibiotic, right? So if you have a low immune system, the next time you go to your doctor, I want you to ask him, and I please want you to do this. If I have a low white blood cell count, what can I do? And they'll look at you like a deer in headlights because they have no idea what to do, okay? And I'm not bad-mouthing medicine because we need crisis care, but we have to set ourselves apart, right? So what is the white blood cell? So it's also called leukocytes, are an important part of the immune system. These cells help to fight infection by attacking bacteria, viruses, and germs that invade our body. White blood cells originate in the bone marrow, but circulate through the bloodstream. There are 5 major white blood cells. You know, my wife said it a lot. You know, God doesn't need any help, just no interference, right? So, so we need to feed our bone marrow. I'll say it a million times, so we can make stem cells and cascade down to actually replenish our innate cells. So we really need to take a deep dive into these immune cells. You know, the problem is most medical doctors, when they do testing, they're missing the natural killer cells, they're missing the CD4, the CD8, the IL-6, and others, okay? And if you haven't gotten tested, please, 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 please get tested. Have your white blood cell count, have your CBC. Tomorrow, get it tested. You know, if you go to a cash lab, it's like under $50. But if you go to the hospital, it'll probably be like $500. You know, they have to make a profit, right? So when the MDs are doing these tests, they're just running a basic CBC, and so we gotta actually take it to the next level, right? So remember, we talked about neutrophils, and we're gonna focus on that for a minute. So neutrophils are the most abundant of the white blood cells. They make up about 60 to 70%. Phagocytes, that's the things that kill They eat the pathogens, contain various enzymes and their granules found in the blood, highly mobile, enter parts of the tissue where other cells cannot, usually the first cells to respond in an infection, okay? The innate immune response, right? That's what we're talking about. You know, when you have a pimple in your skin, it's because the body is cleaning out the infection or the bacteria, and then you get that. So if you women want to have awesome skin, you know, do what my wife said. Put that lemon, that apple cider vinegar on your face. You look marvelous. Okay? So again, you know, when you get a sliver in your finger, you know that there's going to be inflammation, maybe even in your big toe, right? That chronic inflammation causes a wearing down of your white blood cells. And guys, you know, we only have a certain amount of white blood cells in a day. So once you use it, you lose it. And so if you have chronic inflammation, which some of you do, it's going to run out. So do we want that to happen?
No.
Absolutely not.
Turmeric.
So whoever knew that was chamomile, raise your hand.
James.
Wow.
Manzanilla.
Okay. So do you know what that is?
Isn't that turmeric? No.
No.
That's echinacea.
Echinacea.
Echinacea. We want to start to build those neutrophils, right? So where can we, what can we do, what can we consume? We're talking about echinacea. And this is the plant, and this is the whole, you know, the liquid form, you know, higher potency, right?
Right.
So echinacea was so popular a while ago, and it really still should be. It should be very popular, you know, because, you know, my wife talked about chamomile tea and echinacea. If you actually just did that, you would be healthier than most people on this planet. Just do that. You know, you're building your white blood cells, right? So enabling to have a better immune response, because the thing is that pathogens are always trying to sneak in, and you know, this is something very simple that you can do, right? You know, everything we talked about, is it a lot of money?
No.
Okay, there you go. So let's look at the information on echinacea, and PubMed is a proprietary extract from echinacea plant enhances systemic immune response during a common cold. Good or bad?
Good.
Right. So by giving your body what it needs when you have a cold, that's what it needs, right? Because you know, the thing is that you already have, you know, response there to deal with it, right? And so you need to feed your innate immune system. That's really what I want you to understand. So, you know, why we're talking about this is because you want high density nutrients in your body. So the role of vitamin C. So what can I do right now? The role of vitamin C, think about this, is a key function in the neutrophils isolated in healthy individuals, right? So vitamin C, that's why you're hearing so many people doing IV vitamin C, right? Especially with these COVID patients, because most of them are really sick. And so if you're deficient in vitamin C, it's going to help you. If you're not deficient in vitamin C, it's a waste of your money.
Right.
So that's why Dr. C and I, you know, we could take vitamin C, it's not going to change us, where somebody else might take it, it might blow their mind. It might just change their whole life, right? So stop wasting your money. Okay, does anybody know what that is?
Cherries.
Believe me, I didn't know what that was either.
Cranberries.
And coffee?
So that is the highest form of vitamin C on the planet.
Oh, okay.
It's called camu. It's
It's
literally 1,000 times more, 1,000 more times potent than any vitamin C, right? So lemons have more vitamin C than oranges. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't know that. So yeah, I don't care where you get this. You can get it at Whole Foods. You can get it at Sprouts. You get it. I don't have any affiliation with Navitas, you know. So, but the thing is that you're just not going to go run out and get camu, right? Because you're going to get your CBC. You're going to talk to me and Dr. C, and if you need to be supplemented, then you would take it, right? So, you know, our levels are so good now that we just take take these things periodically, right? Not just like on a regular basis, right? By the way, this is extremely sour, so you might want to put it in a smoothie. I don't recommend just downing it, because you go, what the heck did you tell me to do? You know, again, you only take these supplements if you're deemed low, right? Getting that?
Yep.
All right, so knowing that, and thinking that this person has an immune response like this, what does he need to do? What does he need to build up?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to
There
build
you
up
go.
his immune response. So we're gonna probably do liquid echinacea, vitamin C, chamomile, liquid chamomile. We're gonna have a good source for that information and you know, to get that, and that's what you need to do. All right, so it's all about the response, guys. Do you know how you'll respond? That's a question. You know, all these people, they're told to stay home, you know, sitting on their couch, eating chips, having, you know, whatever they're having, beers and sodas and, you know, and they're going out in the world and they're thinking that they're doing something good.
Nope.
I don't care what they're doing, to be honest with you, they're wrong, okay? And, you know, the message that we've always had, regardless of the flu season, you know, we're going to see more epidemics and pandemics. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Especially now, because, you know, the problem is that as Americans, as people, we're more sicker than ever, okay? Because, you know, one of the main food groups is what? Sugar, right? That's what we eat. All right, so in your blood work, and again, you know, we're going to work with each and every one of you, and some of you have already done this, and some of you need to do this, but, you know, this is one of the things that sets us up differently than most other practices, you know, and why we're so unique and why we get amazing results. And it's not because of my wife and myself, but it's because of the knowledge that we have built over 60, whatever, a lot of years, 70 years, 74. Jeez, I feel old.
Oh, you
to say
look
that.
good.
Yeah, for 100, I don't look so bad, huh? So what's the main mantra we always say? We don't guess, we test. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to get a sign that says that, right? So this is a look at your immune cells. You want to have a panel that has this, right? If you ever have high that's cancer. So you don't want that, because this is embryologically, you know, you should have it when you're very young, but when you're older, if that's in your body, not good. CD4, CD8, CBC. By the way, your medical doctor will not run these tests unless we put a gun to their head or we send you to our lab, because they don't know what to do with that information. You know, they usually don't run those tests. So, you know, when you actually do your blood work, we actually have a panel. We can give you the form and tell your medical doctor to run it. They can run things, and the ones they don't run, then we can run. And our lab, you know, it's not cheap, but it's very inexpensive compared to like hospital costs. Does anybody remember that? So I can't do a talk about the human body and not talk about that. Because, you know, your creator put the most amazing healing power in your brain and spinal cord. So for you to hear me right now, for your lungs to breathe, your heart to beat, those messes of life have to go from here through here uninterrupted. And so the nervous system, according to the Vertebral Subluxation Journal, the nervous system senses damage, infectious agents, and foreign bodies with the help of chemical releasing immune system cells, deals with these problems by deploying different types of immune cells to carry out specific procedures. Disturbance in the nervous system, known as subluxation, diminishes the ability of an individual to sense and repair damage and combat infection, cancer, etc., directly resulting in diminished what? Health. So, what's the most important test you could ever have? It's in that room.
X-ray.
Yeah. And who needs to get that test?
Everybody.
Right. When's the best time?
No.
Well, probably 20 years ago, but we're here now. Some of you guys are on the ball here. All right, so we're gonna give you 16. I could have done about 100 tips. Did that say tips or tests?
I
Give me some tips. So being subluxation free, having your brain talking to your body 100%, good idea? Yeah. So this social distancing BS, when you're not able to come in contact with people, there are more people committing suicide than dying of COVID, yes or no? So you can come up and give me a hug, I'll hug you. I mean, because it releases, it releases endorphins in your body. Get tested yesterday. Reduce your sugar intake. Sugar is the #1 cause of inflammation. And you will hear on every talk, and God be willing, next month we'll be able to do another talk. And we can dive into this a little deeper, or we can, talk about how to make your healthy holidays, right? Healthy for the holidays, how you can be stronger through the holidays. Because most people in the holidays get what? Sicker. Because they're slamming sugar for 3 months, 6 months, whatever.
Starting now.
Yeah, because it starts in October, right? It starts like Halloween and it stops at Valentine's Day or something. Okay, so reduce your cortisol levels. So when you're out there on Saturday sweating with the oldies with me out there,
So soulful.
Yeah, but it's reducing your cortisol level,
I know.
right? I understand. Some things, no pain, no gain. We need to social distance from social distancing. Can I get an amen? Okay, Camu, high vitamin C. This is something I'm going to start eating. I never would eat that in my life.
It's cabbage.
I'm sorry. It wasn't in my world. Fermented. I'm going to be slamming that every day. Okay, sauerkraut. Apple cider vinegar. I take that every morning. With B complex and C.
Yeah.
And that's my one. And then, you have to dilute it in water because it's not fun. Lemons, my wife already explained, you can do that. Dr. Conger, excuse me, said that you can do that in, hot water and lemon in the morning. We used to do that all the time. Chamomile. You guys need to sleep. I survey a lot of you guys, and, the average is like maybe 6 hours of sleep for you guys. So you need to be in cave-like darkness. And you need to, if you need to supplement, you need to, melatonin and CalMag if you need that, but you need to start sleeping. Echinacea, exercise. By a show of hands, how many exercise once a week?
Or more.
How many exercise 3 times a week? Leave your hands up. How about 5 times a week? Okay, so you guys suck. No. You need to get better. If you're doing it once a week, let's go for 2. Okay, let's go for 2. And if you're doing it 2, let's go for 3. Now Tom's an animal. He's like 7 days a week. Right? He's doing that. He's good. So vitamin D levels. Does anybody know their vitamin D level? Show me a hand. Who knows their vitamin D level? Josie is a star. What are you, 80, 75? And I'm not talking about your age, I'm talking about your vitamin D level. I mean, that's a rock star. But if you go to an MD, you got 25, you're fine. You'll be fine. I'll just come back for your shots. And then ultimately, we want to reduce our inflammation. Who's read this book? Or reading this book?
Everybody.
So by the way, on page 56 in this book, because all these books are different. By the way, they don't make this book anymore. It's so important. That's why I get it for you guys. But, on page 56, secret to losing 10 pounds fast. So what's the basic rule for advanced plan? Does anybody know? So what should you avoid?
Sugar.
Bad fats.
Okay, what else?
Toxins.
What else? Okay, so what foods should you not eat? Rice, what else? And for some of you, when I say rice, you just think I took your air away. Pasta, bread. Doesn't mean you can never have it, but you gotta go do this thing for like 30 days, no cheating. And then come up to me and tell me how amazing you feel and that you want to do more. Okay? So,
People do it all the time, every day.
I was trying to keep this around an hour because you guys start nodding off after that. So we actually did that. And so next month we are going to have a workshop. I don't know what it's going to be yet. It might be how to stay healthy through the holidays or even be healthier through the holidays.
If anybody has a topic they want to hear, let us know.
Or if you'd like to, because there's more we can talk about this subject, you know, on immune system, because remember, it's not the immune system, it's the immune what? What's the R word?
Response.
There you go. It's how your body responds. Because we really don't have an immune system per se, but we have an immune response. You know me, I had to put something a little funny, and you can start up here if you want.
Oh,
Bill Gates, yeah.
oh God, he's bad.
Bill Gates or the dog dressed as a doctor, who do you trust more?
Nobody.
And this one here is give me liberty or give me death unless there's a virus with a 99% recovery rate, in which case strip me of my freedoms, my job, my constitutional rights, and put me under house arrest.
There you go. Wow, that applies now.
Well, okay, you can shut it off now.